The marble hallway stretched like a cathedral, cold and endless, chandeliers casting fractured light across polished stone. 7-year-old Emma Calabrese moved through it with careful, deliberate steps, her small frame wrapped in a yellow dress with white flowers embroidered across the front. Her left leg dragged. Metal braces clicked against the floor with each movement, a sound like coins falling, one by one, into an endless well. She gasped for breath. One hand clutched her small chest. Her lips were turning faintly blue, like someone had dipped them in ice water. 3 floors below, in the kitchen of the Calabrese mansion, Mia Harper stood loading catered food onto a silver delivery cart. Her jacket bore a faded company logo, the fabric stained with grease from 1,000 shifts that paid almost nothing. She had worked since 4 a.m. She would work until midnight. This was how a woman with 2 hungry children and an $85,000 eviction notice in her apartment survived. She heard the cry. It echoed off the chandeliers like something breaking, not a shout, but something deeper. The sound of a child whose body was betraying her. Mia did not think. She moved. The cart clattered behind her, catering falling across marble. She was already running, taking the main stairs 2 at a time, her worn sneakers pounding against stone. Up to the 2nd floor. Through the east corridor. The crying grew louder, more desperate, and then it stopped. Silence was worse. She found Emma collapsed against a marble column, her small body convulsing. The child's breathing came in short gasps, her face going grey around the edges. Mia knelt instantly, her hands moving with the certainty of someone who had trained for this. She positioned the child's head, opened the airway, checked for obstructions. Nothing. This was something deeper. Asthma. A panic attack. Her heart. "Sweetie, look at me," Mia said, her voice steady like a metronome. "Look at my eyes. Breathe with me. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. In through your nose." Emma's eyes locked onto hers. "Out through your mouth. That's right. Keep breathing. You're doing so good. I've got you. Nobody else matters right now. Just you and me and breathing. In through your nose." Emma's chest rose. "Out through your mouth." The child breathed. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. The blue faded from her lips. Her breathing deepened. Mia stroked her hair, still wet with sweat, and kept speaking in that same low, steady voice. "You're okay now, sweetheart. You're okay. Nobody's going to hurt you. I'm right here." She did not know whose child this was. She did not see the security cameras mounted in the corners, their red lights blinking silently, recording every second. She did not know that this moment was being watched by the most dangerous man in Boston. High above, on the 23rd floor, Giovanni Calabrese stood before a wall of monitors in his penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city sprawling beneath him, streets he owned, businesses he controlled, people he commanded. He was 6'3", broad-shouldered, his tailored charcoal suit custom-made in Milan. Silver threaded through his dark hair at the temples. A scar ran from his left eye to his cheekbone, thin and pale, a map of something that had tried to kill him once. His hand froze on his phone. His daughter was on the monitor, convulsing. And beneath his daughter's body, kneeling on cold marble in a stained jacket, was a woman he had never seen before. His finger hovered over the 911 button. He had called emergency services 7 times in Emma's life. Neurologists. Cardiologists. Specialists flown in from Geneva, from Tokyo, from places with names he could barely pronounce. They had examined his daughter with sad, professional eyes and delivered the same verdict each time: degenerative nerve condition. Progressive. Incurable. There is nothing we can do. His daughter was supposed to die slowly. But on the monitor, his daughter was breathing. The woman in the stained jacket was still talking, her voice carrying a tenderness that Giovanni recognized but could not name. "You're so brave, Emma. So brave. Keep breathing with me. That's my girl. Emma's small hand reached up and grabbed the woman's fingers. Giovanni set down his phone. He pressed the intercom. Enzo. His lieutenant appeared almost instantly, black suit immaculate, face blank as concrete. Sir. Find out everything about the delivery woman in the East Corridor. Everything. Name. Address. Employment history. Criminal record. Family. Where she shops for groceries. Who she calls. The color of her underwear. I want to know how many times she's blinked in the last 5 minutes. Move. Enzo did not ask questions. He moved. Giovanni returned his gaze to the monitor. The woman had lifted Emma into her arms. She was carrying her toward the nearest guest room, speaking in that same calm, steady voice. You're going to rest now. Your heart needs rest. Just like a bird after flying for a long time. You need to rest your wings. Emma's head rested against the woman's shoulder. For the first time in 3 years, Giovanni saw his daughter completely still. Not rigid with fear. Not gasping for breath. Still. The monitor went dark as the woman carried Emma out of frame. 3 blocks away, the October wind tore through the empty streets like something with teeth. Rain began to fall, cold and thin, turning the sidewalk into a mirror. Mia Harper walked toward the bus stop with her jacket pulled tight, her shoulders hunched against the cold. In her right coat pocket, she carried 5 wrinkled dollar bills. $5 stood between her and grocery stores that would not accept credit cards maxed out at their limits. $5 was dinner for 2 children on this night and the next. $5 was the difference between her kids going to bed hungry or going to bed fed, at least barely. She did not have a car. She had not had a car for 2 years, since the used Honda broke down and the repairs cost more than she made in a week. The bus was $3 round trip. That left her $2 for anything else, food, medicine, the emergency that seemed to arrive every week like a bill collector with the law behind it. The bus pulled up, its doors opening with a hydraulic sigh. The driver barely looked at her. Nobody looked at anyone. That was the mercy of public transportation, invisibility. She climbed aboard and found a seat in the back, where the heater had stopped working years ago. Her breath came out in small clouds. She pulled her phone from her pocket, old, cracked screen, the battery lasting maybe 6 hours on a good day, and checked her messages. 2 texts from her mother. 1 message she did not open. 1 email with a red flag icon, the subject line in aggressive capitals, final notice. $85,000. The number had burned itself into her brain. Rent on the apartment where she and her children had lived for 5 years. 5 years of scraping together deposits, signing leases, believing they had a home. 5 years of promises from a landlord who kept the building heated barely enough to survive, who fixed nothing when it broke, who smiled and took her money every single month. Then he decided to renovate. Which meant selling the building to developers who wanted it empty. Which meant every tenant had to go. Which meant Mia had to pay $85,000 by the 1st of next month or she and her kids would be on the street. She had $5 in her pocket and 2 part-time jobs that paid minimum wage. The mathematics of survival were not complex. The math simply said, impossible. The bus turned a corner. Rain streaked across the windows. Mia pressed her forehead against the glass, watching the city pass, restaurants with warm lights, offices with people in clean clothes, a couple walking with their arms linked, moving toward somewhere safe. She thought about her son and daughter at home, in the apartment they would soon no longer have. Her mother was watching them. Her mother, who was 63 and tired, who worked her own job and lived in a room barely larger than a closet, who had no money to help, who called once a day out of love and guilt. Mia closed her eyes. The bus engine rumbled beneath her. Other passengers got on. Others got off. The city rolled past like something that would continue forever regardless of what happened to any one person in it. At that same hour, in a restaurant in the North End, Giovanni Calabrese sat across from his ex-wife, Margaret Harrington. She was tall, elegant, her blonde hair the color of expensive champagne. She wore a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent, black silk with small diamonds sewn into the neckline. Her engagement ring could have purchased a house. "Emma is getting worse," Margaret said. Her voice was like honey poured over glass. "You should accept that she will never walk normally. You should put her somewhere. There are very good facilities now. Very discreet." Giovanni cut his steak. The knife moved with precision. He did not look up. "She's a burden," Margaret continued. "Not just on you. On herself. She will never have a normal life. She will never dance, never run, never. She will have whatever life she chooses to have," Giovanni said. His voice was quiet. That made it worse. Margaret smiled slightly. "The man I married would have moved on by now." "The man you married," Giovanni said, finally meeting her eyes, "did not exist. You married money. The money is still here. The marriage is not." He returned to his steak. The conversation was finished. Margaret finished her wine and excused herself, leaving in a cloud of expensive perfume. Giovanni sat alone at the table, watching the city lights reflect off the harbor through the restaurant windows. Somewhere in this city was a woman in a stained jacket who had knelt beside his daughter and steadied her heartbeat like a prayer. He would find her. And when he did, Giovanni Calabrese would keep her safe, even if she never knew that she needed saving. Even if she never knew why. Even if it meant changing everything. The bus pulled up to Mia's stop. She gathered her things and stepped out into the October cold. Her apartment building rose 5 stories, brick and deteriorating, windows lit with the blue glow of televisions. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her legs aching from 12 hours of work. She unlocked the door. Her daughter ran toward her, 7 years old, all elbows and knees. "Mama, Mama, we made drawings for you." Her son followed, 5 and serious, holding a piece of paper decorated with colors. "Mama, I made this. It's for when you're sad." Mia pulled them both into her chest and held them there, breathing in the smell of their hair, the warmth of their small bodies. "I'm never sad when I'm with you," she whispered. It was a lie. But it was the kind of lie mothers tell. The kind of lie that keeps the world from breaking apart completely. On the table, the eviction notice waited. $85,000 in 3 days. The odds were impossible. The situation was hopeless. The math was merciless. Mia Harper had no way of knowing that one of the most powerful men in the city was about to change everything. No way of knowing that the woman in the stained jacket had just saved something far more precious than an ordinary child. And absolutely no way of knowing that in saving Emma Calabrese, she had just triggered a sequence of events that would either destroy her completely or elevate her beyond anything she had ever imagined. Outside, the October rain continued to fall. The October rain fell in sheets across South Boston, and Mia Harper stood in the marble kitchen of Giovanni Calabrese's mansion counting the minutes until she could leave. The walls were white and sterile, the kind of kitchen that had never known the smell of a home-cooked meal, only the smell of money and emptiness. She held the delivery receipt in her trembling hand. $40 promised. $39.90 owed. Her coat hung damp across her shoulders, the fabric thin and insufficient against the cold that had followed her through the entire city. The security man, Dario, stood by the counter without speaking. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running from his left eye to his jawline like a seam in his face. He wore a black suit that cost more than a month of Mia's rent. He was checking something on his phone, not looking at her, and this small dismissal, this ignoring of her presence in his space, was somehow worse than any rudeness could have been. Mia had learned long ago that invisibility was a kind of shield. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her shoes were worn through at the heel. She could feel the cold floor through the hole in her soul. Somewhere in this building, a child had cried out. The sound had been small and afraid, the sound of someone calling for help. Mia had frozen for just a moment in the hallway, the delivery bag hanging from her shoulder, listening to that voice fade into the architecture of the mansion like a prayer no one was hearing. "Delivery is done," Dario said finally, not looking at her. "Wait." The word hung in the air between them. Wait for what? Mia did not ask. She had learned not to ask questions of powerful people. She had learned that the safest thing a woman like her could do was become part of the furniture, part of the walls, something that could be moved through without acknowledgement. But her hands were shaking. It was 4:15 in the afternoon. She needed to be home by 6. Emma and Marcus would be coming back from school, and Marcus got anxious if she was not there when the door opened. He was 5 years old and had learned early that people left. His father had left before he was born. Her mother had died in Marcus's 3rd year. His instinct, now, was to hold tight to anything that stayed, and Mia had promised him, every single day, that she would be there when he came home. She had $3.47 in her pocket. After she paid for the subway ride home, she would have $1.74. That would buy milk. Or bread. Not both. She had been making these calculations for so long that they happened without thinking. $1.74. Milk or bread? She thought of Emma's teeth, of how children needed calcium, and decided on milk. The footsteps came before the voice. Measured steps on the marble floor, moving slowly, each one deliberate and controlled. Mia did not look up. She had learned this too: the smaller you made yourself, the less likely you were to be noticed as someone worth harming. "Bring her." The voice was deep and solid like an oath. It came from somewhere beyond the doorway, from the hallway she had just walked through, from the shadows that had swallowed that small crying voice only minutes before. Enzo, another man in a black suit, appeared suddenly in the kitchen. He was younger than Dario, with dark hair and a gold watch that caught the light. He looked at Mia with something that might have been confusion. "The boss wants to see you," he said. It was not a request. Mia's body went rigid. The delivery bag felt heavier now, an anchor dragging her down. People like her did not get called to see men like the one whose voice had just rewritten the afternoon. People like her delivered the food, collected the money, and left. They did not enter the inner rooms. They did not meet the man who owned everything. "I just need to get paid," she said. Her voice came out barely a whisper, trembling like a candle in the wind. "I have to get home to my children." Neither man responded. Enzo gestured toward the door with his hand, a simple movement that meant there was no choice here. There had never been a choice. Mia set down the delivery bag slowly and followed him out of the kitchen, leaving a thin trail of water from her wet coat across the white and perfect floor. The hallway was longer than it should have been. The ceilings rose so high that her footsteps sounded small and insignificant against the marble. Paintings hung on the walls, modern art that she did not understand, shapes and colors that seemed to mean something to someone but not to her. A chandelier made of crystal caught the light and threw it in 1,000 directions. Everything in this place was designed to make a person feel small. Everything whispered that some people lived in a different world than everyone else. They climbed a staircase. The banister was mahogany, smooth under her palm. Her palm was calloused from work, the skin rough and cracked from washing dishes, from scrubbing floors before the delivery job, from holding on to survival by gripping it so tightly that her own hands had become weapons against themselves. She moved her palm away from the banister and kept it at her side. The office was on the 3rd floor. Dark wood, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over Boston. The rain was so heavy now that it blurred the city into watercolor shapes, lights diffused into soft halos, the entire world softened and made uncertain. Mia had read once that rain was the sky weeping. She had thought about that often over the past 6 months. It felt like the sky cried a lot. Giovanni Calabrese stood with his back to the door, looking out at the rain and the city and the empire of his life. He was tall, at least 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled the tailored suit he wore like water filling a vessel. His hair was dark, silvered at the temples, combed back from his face with the precision of someone accustomed to control. A scar ran from his right eye to his cheekbone, thin and pale, like a blade had once tried to mark him and failed. His wrist bore a watch that cost more than Mia's entire apartment building was worth. He turned slowly. When he looked at her, his eyes were storm grey, and in them she saw something that made her breath catch. There was no cruelty in his face. There was no recognition. There was only a kind of intensity, a focusing of all his power and attention onto this one small, wet delivery woman standing in his office in a coat that belonged in a donation bin. His eyes moved from her face to her hands, taking in everything, the calloused palms, the broken fingernails, the way she stood as if bracing for impact. "You were in the kitchen," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir." The words came out barely there. "You heard something." Mia's heart began to move faster. She did not know what he was asking her. She did not know what answer he wanted. The safest thing, always, was to deny everything. People in power did not want truth from people without power. They wanted confirmation of what they already believed. "I heard a child," she said. The silence that followed was absolute. It filled the room like water rising. She could hear the rain outside, the wind moving through the city, her own heartbeat in her ears like a prisoner demanding release. "Where?" he said, and she understood this was still not a question. "In the East Wing. When I was walking through the hallway. A girl. She was crying for help." Giovanni's jaw tightened. A muscle moved there, invisible motion in the landscape of his face. He looked at Enzo, and something passed between them without words, the kind of communication that happens between men who have known each other long enough to speak in silence. "What is your name?" Giovanni asked. "Mia. Mia Harper." "How many children do you have, Mia Harper?" The question was so unexpected that for a moment she did not understand it. She blinked. Water dripped from her coat onto the marble floor. She watched the droplet fall and spread, just a small amount of moisture destroying nothing, meaning nothing in a space this vast. "2," she said. "Emma is 7. Marcus is 5. What is the name of your daughter?" Something shifted in his face then. Something that looked like pain, but that could not be right. A man like this did not feel pain. A man like this was beyond pain. He was beyond everything that happened to smaller people. "Emma," Mia said again. "Her name is Emma Harper." The rain continued to fall outside. In the city below, millions of people were making their way through their lives, unaware that in this office, at this exact moment, something was breaking open. Unaware that in a few seconds, Giovanni Calabrese would make a decision that would change everything, that would reach into Mia's world and turn it inside out, that would connect the invisible delivery woman to the most powerful man in Boston through a thread so thin and fragile that it seemed impossible it could hold. But it would hold. It would hold and pull and reshape everything both of them thought they understood about their own lives. "The child you heard crying," Giovanni said, his voice different now, rougher somehow, like something sharp moving through gravel. "Her name is Emma Calabrese. She is my daughter. And what you are about to learn will change everything." Outside, the October rain fell harder, and Mia Harper stood in the office of a Mafia boss whose daughter shared her own daughter's name, understanding nothing except that the small decision she had made today, to take this delivery route, to walk through that hallway at that exact moment, to listen to a child's cry, had somehow opened a door she did not know how to close. The October wind cut through the empty street like a blade wrapped in ice, and Mia Harper pulled her daughter's worn coat tighter around her own shoulders as she walked home from the mansion. $5,000 a week. The number repeated in her mind like a prayer, like salvation, like a door opening onto a life she had stopped believing in. She could pay the eviction. She could buy groceries. She could breathe. But the footsteps behind her did not sound like salvation. She heard them first as a rhythm on the wet pavement, then as a presence that made the small hairs on her neck stand straight. Mia quickened her pace without looking back. The footsteps quickened too. Her heart began to hammer against her ribs like something wild and trapped, and she thought of Emma's face in the library, the way the little girl had lit up when she arrived, the way those small hands had reached for her trust. The footsteps stopped. Mia stopped too, every muscle locked, afraid to turn around. The silence was worse than the sound. The silence was a held breath, a gun being cocked, a fist being formed. She could feel him standing there behind her in the darkness, could feel the weight of his attention like a physical thing pressing down on her shoulders. "Hello, Mia," Douglas Hale's voice came from the shadows. 38 years old, thick-necked, with knuckles scarred from years of using them as his primary form of communication. His hands were shoved deep in his jacket pockets, but she knew what was in those pockets. She had felt what was in those pockets before. Mia turned slowly, her voice steady though every nerve in her body was screaming. "Douglas, I paid you the $200. You said we were done." He stepped into the pool of light from the street lamp, and she could see the rage written across his face like a map of violence. $200. You think $200 is the end of this? You think you can just walk into a penthouse mansion and forget about your debts to me? Her throat tightened. "How did you?" "I know everything you do," he said, moving closer. "I know where your kids sleep. I know the school they go to. I know every route you take on your delivery route. And I know you just got paid $5,000 to play nanny to some rich man's crippled daughter." The word hit her like a physical slap. Crippled. Emma, who had looked at her with such hope, such pure untainted hope. Mia felt something cold and dangerous move through her chest, something that felt like protection, like a mother's instinct sharpened into a blade. "That money is not yours," Mia said quietly. Douglas laughed, a sound like gravel in a disposal. "That money is whatever I say it is. You work for me, Mia. You will always work for me. You belong to me." He reached out to grab her arm, and in that moment, a black SUV rounded the corner with the smooth precision of a predator. The vehicle did not screech. It did not accelerate wildly. It simply appeared, blocking Douglas's path, its tinted windows reflecting nothing, revealing nothing. The driver's door opened. Enzo stepped out. 45 years old, broad-shouldered, with the bearing of a man who had broken many things and fixed none of them. He wore a black suit that cost more than everything Douglas Hale owned. He did not speak. He simply looked at Douglas Hale with eyes that had witnessed violence in 100 forms and perfected the art of threatening it without words. Douglas released Mia's arm immediately. "This is not your concern," he said, but his voice had changed. The certainty had drained from it. "It is," Enzo said, his voice deep and steady like an oath. "Giovanni Calabrese does not take kindly to men who threaten people under his protection. You have exactly 30 seconds to walk away from this street and never come near Mia Harper again. If you do not, tomorrow morning there will not be enough of you left for the police to identify." Douglas looked between Enzo and the SUV, weighing his options, finding none. He turned and walked away into the darkness, his footsteps echoing down the street until the city swallowed them. Enzo turned to Mia. "Get in the car. We are taking you somewhere safe." The drive through Boston took 12 minutes. Enzo said nothing. Mia sat in the back seat trying to understand what had just happened, how Giovanni had known, what this protection meant, what price it might carry. The SUV pulled into the underground parking garage of a building on Beacon Hill, all polished concrete and security cameras, a place where invisible people did not usually go. Enzo led her to the elevator. "Giovanni is waiting upstairs." The penthouse was different at night. The city light stretched across every window like a map of power, and Giovanni Calabrese stood at the glass looking out at the Boston skyline, his suit jacket removed, his white shirt partially unbuttoned, showing the broad expanse of his chest. The scar along his jawline caught the light. He did not turn around. "Douglas Hale has been a problem for 7 years," Giovanni said quietly. "He runs protection rackets in the North End. He preys on vulnerable people. People like you." He finally turned to face her. "But that ends now." Mia's voice was barely a whisper. "How did you know he was there?" "I have had people watching since the moment you agreed to work here," Giovanni said. Enzo was 3 blocks away. That is how close danger can be without you knowing. He walked closer to her, and she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle, something that made her feel small and unsafe in a different way entirely. His eyes held hers, and there was something in them that looked like rage, but it was not directed at her. "I want to know everything," he said. "How long has he been taking money from you? How much does he have you in for? What has he threatened you with?" Mia told him. The words came tumbling out in fragments and pieces, the story of Douglas Hale, the $200, the threats against her children, the way he had shown up at the women's shelter 6 months ago and somehow tracked her to every job she had ever worked since. As she spoke, Giovanni's face remained still, unreadable, but his hands curled slowly into fists and uncurled again, curled and uncurled, a rhythm that looked like violence being held back. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You have been dealing with this alone." "I did not know what else to do," Mia said. Giovanni moved to the window. When Emma was born, the doctors gave her a 15% chance of normal mobility. Just 15%. My ex-wife Margaret wanted to institutionalize her. She said a disabled child was a weakness, a liability. She said Emma would be better off raised by professionals who did not love her, who would not coddle her, who would not waste time hoping for miracles. He paused. The city hummed below them, millions of people living their small lives, unaware that in this penthouse a different kind of reckoning was beginning. "I told Margaret no. I told her I would move heaven and earth to give Emma a chance. And I have spent 8 years proving that a parent's love is not a weakness. It is the most dangerous force there is." He turned back to Mia. "Douglas Hale is going to learn that lesson. But not tonight. Tonight, you are going to stay here where you are safe. Tomorrow, we will discuss how we dismantle him completely." Mia thought of her children asleep in their apartment, unaware that someone was watching them. She thought of Emma's small hands reaching for her, trusting her, believing she was safe. She thought of the $5,000, and what it meant that Giovanni had offered it, and what it meant that he had known exactly when danger would arrive. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Giovanni's expression softened slightly. "Right now? I want you to rest. Everything else can wait until morning." He called his housekeeper and had her show Mia to a guest room overlooking the city. The bed was the largest thing Mia had ever seen. The sheets probably cost more than she made in a month, and as she lay there staring at the ceiling listening to the October wind rattle against the windows, she understood that her life had split into 2 halves. Everything before tonight, and everything that would come after. And in the library downstairs, Giovanni sat with Enzo and Dario and his phone, making calls that would set events in motion, speaking in measured tones about Douglas Hale, about Federal Bureau of Investigation contacts, about building a case so airtight that no judge in Massachusetts would hesitate to sentence him to decades in federal prison. In 15 years, Enzo had never seen Giovanni like this. Protective. Focused on something other than expanding his territory or consolidating his power. And as he listened to the plan unfold, a plan that would take weeks to execute, Enzo understood that something fundamental had changed. Emma had cried out in the hallway 2 days ago. A delivery woman had answered. And now the most powerful man in Boston was going to wage war against a small-time criminal who had made the mistake of trying to control her. The rain began to fall harder, and in her room upstairs, Mia Harper finally slept, safe for the first time in 6 months, her dreams filled with Emma's face and the impossible promise of a new beginning. The October wind howls through the alley like a blade wrapped in ice. Mia's breath comes in visible clouds as Douglas Hale drags her deeper into the shadows, his 6'2" frame blocking out the streetlight behind them. His face twists with rage, muscles tensing beneath a leather jacket that cost more than she made in 3 months. "Douglas, you think you can just leave me? You think you can ignore my calls?" He slams her against the brick wall. The impact knocks the air from her lungs. His hand closes around her throat, calloused fingers pressing into the soft skin, cutting off sound before it can escape. "Douglas, I saw you going into that mansion. You think you are too good for me now?" His fist connects with her face. Once. The pain explodes like a gunshot in her skull. Twice. Her eye swells immediately, the flesh puffing purple and red. Blood runs from her split lip, warm and metallic on her tongue. He hits her again, his handprint darkening across her throat like a brand. She tries to scream but no sound comes. Meanwhile, across the city in the warehouse district, Giovanni Calabrese sits in the back of a black Mercedes, Enzo driving, Dario in the passenger seat. Rain streaks the windows. Through the glass, Giovanni sees three armed men in leather jackets surrounding a young mother holding a baby. One man presses a gun to her temple. Giovanni, stop the car. Enzo, boss, we do not have time for. Giovanni, stop the car. Giovanni steps out into the rain. The armed men freeze when they see him. Everyone in Boston knows Giovanni Calabrese. 47 years old. Scar running from his left eye to his cheekbone. Tailored charcoal suit beneath a cashmere coat worth more than a year of most people's rent. Gold watch catching the streetlight. The men lower their weapons, confusion flickering across their faces. But before Giovanni can speak, the young mother locks eyes with the gun-wielding thug. Her voice trembles but holds steady. Young mother, you need to stop. Right now. I have a baby. I have a life. And you are not going to take it from me. Giovanni is struck still. He watches this powerless woman stand against violence with nothing but courage. He signals to Enzo and Dario. The armed men scatter like ghosts, melting into the rain. Giovanni helps the woman to her feet. He presses money into her hand, $500, and tells her to go home. To be safe. She stares at him with tears streaming down her face and walks away, her baby cradled against her chest. But the image stays with him. A woman with nothing, standing tall. Back in the alley, Mia's vision blurs. Douglas has her pinned against the brick, his fist raised for another strike. Then she sees something over his shoulder. A security camera mounted on the corner building. The red light blinking steadily. Recording. She does not know if anyone is monitoring. She does not know if Giovanni's people have been watching her building, protecting her from the shadows. But she gambles everything on that small red light. Mia, her voice raw and breaking, you are being recorded. Douglas freezes. His eyes flick to the camera. For a moment, fear flashes across his face, fear of cameras, of records, of consequences that might actually touch him. He releases her and steps back, his breath coming in angry gasps. Douglas, this is not over. He runs. Mia collapses against the wall, shaking. The October wind cuts through her torn coat. She pulls out her phone with trembling hands and dials the only number she has memorized. It rings once. Twice. Giovanni answers before the third ring. Mia, her voice breaking, he found me. He came out of nowhere and he. Giovanni, where are you? Mia, the alley. Behind my building. I am okay, I am. Giovanni, I am coming. He hangs up. In the alley, Mia sits against the cold brick for 10 minutes. Her body shakes from shock and cold. She stares at her bloody hands, at the $5 bill that fell from her pocket into a puddle, now dissolving into pulp. The only money she has left in the world. She thinks, this will never end. Douglas will never stop. The police will not help. No one will help. I should take my kids and run, but where would we go with no money, no car, no family? She closes her eyes. The weight of survival presses down until she cannot breathe. Then she feels something in her coat pocket. Emma's tiny white sneakers with pink laces. The one she kept since the shelter. The talisman she has carried through every night of fear. She remembers her daughter's face the day they escaped. The way Emma held her hand and whispered, "We are going to be okay, Mama." Mia opens her eyes. She stands. 20 minutes later, a black SUV screeches to a halt in the alley. Giovanni steps out, Enzo and Dario behind him. When he sees Mia's face, his expression turns to stone. One eye swollen shut. Blood on her throat. Handprint bruises darkening like a map of violence. He kneels beside her, his hand hovering near her face but not touching. Giovanni, voice deadly quiet, who did this? Mia, Douglas Hale. My ex. He has been stalking me for months. The police will not help. He has friends in the precinct. They protect him. Giovanni stands. He pulls out his phone and makes the first call. Giovanni, I need you at my home in 15 minutes. She needs a doctor. Come now. The second call. Giovanni, I am sending you a name. Douglas Hale. I want everything. Bank records. Criminal history. Associates. Every place he goes. Every person he knows. You have 12 hours. And when you are done, you send it directly to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He turns to Enzo. Giovanni, take Mia and her children to the mansion. Guest wing. Armed guards on the door. No one gets in without my permission. Mia, I cannot just. Giovanni, you can. And you will. Because this ends tonight. At 3 in the morning, the FBI raids Douglas Hale's apartment in Dorchester. 12 agents in tactical gear. Battering ram on the reinforced door. Douglas is dragged out in handcuffs, screaming, as news cameras flash and reporters shout questions. The evidence is airtight. Financial records showing Douglas's involvement in a drug trafficking ring that Giovanni's forensic accountants uncovered in 12 hours. Assault charges. Stalking charges. Racketeering. Witness statements gathered by people who move faster than law enforcement ever could. The federal prosecutor is waiting. The case is sealed tight as a tomb. 3 weeks later, Douglas Hale is sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. The footage plays on every news channel. Giovanni watches from his office. He does not smile. He simply nods. Enzo, he will die in there. Giovanni, too quick. Too easy. Too merciful. This way he has 40 years to think about what he lost. Meanwhile, Margaret Harrington has spent 3 weeks at Boston's finest charity galas, whispering poison into the ears of the city's elite. The gold digger. The manipulator. The woman trying to trap Giovanni Calabrese. She circles the ballroom like a predator, her Cartier diamonds catching the light, her voice dripping venom with every careful word. Then the ballroom doors open. FBI agents walk through the crowd. Formal dress. Serious faces. 200 witnesses watch in stunned silence as they approach Margaret Harrington where she stands holding a champagne flute. Agent, Margaret Harrington, you are under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering. Margaret's face drains of color. Her champagne glass shatters on the marble floor. Margaret, you cannot do this. I am untouchable. Agent, you are under arrest. She is led out in handcuffs as cameras flash. As her society friends turn away. As the woman who spent weeks destroying Mia's reputation is led into the rain in front of 200 witnesses. Her foundation collapses within days. Assets frozen. Accounts seized. 15-year federal sentence delivered by a judge who knew exactly what she had done. Giovanni watches the news coverage. He turns the television off without a word. 1 year later, Mia stands in the sunlight of a Boston morning that feels impossible. She wears a dress she bought with her own money. Not borrowed. Not given. Earned. Emma holds her hand, 7 years old now, healthy, her first pair of shoes framed on the wall of the home Mia owns in her own name. Giovanni kneels in front of her, his scarred face softened by something that looks like peace. In his hand, a ring that belonged to his mother. The mother he lost when he was 8 years old. The mother who taught him kindness before the world taught him cruelty. Giovanni, Mia Harper, will you marry me? Mia cries. Emma cries. Enzo and Dario stand in the garden watching their boss, the most powerful man in Boston, on his knees before a woman who once had $5 to her name. Mia, yes. Yes. And in the silence that follows, the October wind does not howl. Instead, it carries warmth. After the rain, the sky clears. And sometimes miracles come from the most unexpected places. 3 months into the impossible, Mia stands in the physical therapy room of Giovanni's mansion, her hands trembling as Emma grips her fingers. The room smells like antiseptic and something else, hope, maybe, though hope has no scent. The doctors said Emma's condition would only worsen. The specialist said her muscles would atrophy, that her legs would never bear weight, that acceptance was the only path forward. But 3 months is a long time when you refuse to accept a lie. Emma wears pink leggings and a small determined expression that mirrors her mother's. Mia counts in a voice steady like a prayer. 1, 2, 3. That is it, sweetheart. You are doing it. Emma's legs shake. Her knees bend slightly. For 30 seconds, she stands without the braces that have become extensions of her small body. 30 seconds of impossible weight balanced on muscles the doctors said were broken. When Emma sits, laughing and breathless, Mia pulls her close. Sweat and determination and something like victory cling to them both. Through the observation window, Giovanni watches with his hand pressed against the glass. His scarred face is unreadable until the moment tears begin streaming down his weathered cheeks. Enzo stands beside him, his voice barely above a whisper. Boss, this is impossible. Giovanni does not turn away from the window. No. This is a miracle. A week later, Emma walks 10 full steps across the mansion's library without her braces. 10 full steps. Her small feet strike the hardwood floor with a rhythm like a heartbeat, and when she reaches Mia, she collapses into her arms laughing. Mia holds her, whispering words that break and reform between tears. You did it, baby. You did it. You did it. Giovanni enters quietly and kneels beside them both. His hands that have commanded empires and ended disputes with single words, reach out and touch his daughter's hair with a tenderness that seems impossible in a man like him. Giovanni to Mia, you gave me my daughter back. How do I repay that? Mia wipes her eyes, her voice barely steady. You already did. You saved my life. But what Giovanni carried inside him was something he could not speak aloud. In these 3 months, watching Mia move through his home with quiet determination, watching her love Emma with a fierceness that matched his own, something had shifted in his chest. Love came to men like him in unexpected forms. It did not announce itself. It simply arrived one day like a blade through flesh, undeniable and irreversible. That night, Mia sits alone in the mansion's garden. The October cold has finally eased, and November carries something warmer on its breath. She pulls from her pocket Emma's tiny white shoes, the ones she kept hidden since the women's shelter, the ones that stayed with her through every darkness. She holds them in her palms and allows herself to smile. Inside, Giovanni stands with Enzo in his office. The windows overlook Boston's glittering skyline. Giovanni's voice comes low and final, like a decision carved in stone. I am sending her away. Enzo's head snaps up. What? Why? Because she deserves a life. Not to be trapped here because she is grateful. Not to feel obligation masquerading as love. Giovanni moves to his desk and pulls out documents thick as a Bible. I am setting up a trust for her. $5 million. She can go anywhere. Do anything. Build the future she deserves. She will never have to be afraid again. And if she wants to stay? Enzo asks quietly. Giovanni does not answer immediately. When he does, his voice carries the weight of a man choosing pain over possession. She will not. Why would she? 1 week later, Mia receives the documents. The words swim before her eyes. $5 million. Her hands shake as she reads the legal language that translates to one simple truth: Giovanni is setting her free. He tells her in the library where Emma took her first 10 steps. His jaw is tight. His eyes carry something that looks like goodbye. You are free, Mia. Take your children. Build the life you deserve. You do not owe me anything. Mia stares at him, her voice small and shattered. You are sending me away. I am setting you free, Giovanni says, and the difference between those two things breaks something inside her that she does not have language to repair. She leaves that afternoon. A car waits. Emma holds her hand, confused but trusting. Her other children sit in the back seat, clutching the few belongings Mia has gathered. As they drive away from the mansion, Mia looks back once and sees Giovanni standing at an upper window, his silhouette framed by winter light. She moves into a penthouse apartment in Back Bay that Giovanni arranged before she left. She enrolls her children in private school. She founds a non-profit called House of Hope, dedicated to helping women escape abuse. In the first year, she helps 200 women find safety. 200 women who were once invisible, like she was invisible, now see themselves reflected in her work like a mirror, returning their own humanity. But invisible things do not disappear simply because no one looks at them. They simply exist in darkness, waiting. 1 year passes. Mia stands on her office balcony at sunset, overlooking Boston as the city transforms into amber and violet. She wears a tailored suit she bought with her own money. Her hair is styled. Every trace of the broken delivery woman is gone, replaced by someone competent and strong and deeply, achingly alone. She has not seen Giovanni in a year. She heard he handed his empire to Enzo. She heard he left the country. She heard many things, but the only thing that mattered was that he was gone. Footsteps behind her. She turns. Giovanni stands in her office doorway. He looks older. His hair carries more silver now, like frost settling on dark ground. He wears a simple black sweater and jeans instead of the tailored suits that once cost more than her entire annual salary. He looks at her the way a man looks at something he thought he would never see again. Mia's breath catches. You are back. Giovanni walks to the balcony but keeps distance between them, as if proximity itself is a form of trespassing. I left because I could not stay near you without telling you the truth. And you deserve time to build your life without me clouding what you felt. Without obligation or gratitude. He pauses. His voice drops. Without my shadow. What truth? Mia whispers. That I have been in love with you since the day you knelt beside my daughter and helped her breathe. That watching you leave was the hardest thing I have ever done. That I have carried this for a year and I cannot carry it anymore. Giovanni's voice cracks slightly, this powerful man, broken by honesty. But I will not ask you to feel the same. You are free. You built this. You do not need me. Mia steps closer, her eyes glistening with tears she has held back for 12 long months. You are wrong. She takes his hand. I have loved you since the night you saved me in that alley. Since you saw me not as a project or a charity case but as a person worth protecting. I left because you sent me away. But I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. Giovanni pulls her into his arms. They stand on the balcony as the sun bleeds across the horizon, two broken people who found healing in impossible places. 6 months later, Emma runs through a park without braces, her laughter cutting through autumn air like a bell. Mia and Giovanni sit on a bench watching, their hands intertwined, their future written in a language older than words. Mia holds Emma's tiny white shoes in her hands one final time. She places them carefully into a shadow box on the wall, labeling it in small careful letters, "Where we started." Giovanni wraps his arm around her. They look at their family. At the children who were once invisible. At the man who learned that the strongest power is not destruction but resurrection. After the rain, the sky clears. And sometimes miracles come from the most unexpected places. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe because tomorrow we are bringing you another story that will change how you see the world. Drop a comment telling me what you thought about Mia and Giovanni's journey. And remember, your miracle might be closer than you think. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. We wish you good health, joy, and peace.